So today I wanted to have a little bit of fun and talk about what I call second screen gaming, specifically within the arena of the Steam Deck. Now the idea of a second screen or a second screening or whatever you want to call it isn't really a new idea, rather it's something that came about as consumer behavior shifted a little bit in the mid to late 2000s as smartphones became more popular. What content creators and movie and show producers were finding is that more often than not, when people were sitting in their living room watching TV or a show, they weren't 100% focused on that any longer, but rather they were dividing their attention between whatever was on screen in their living room and the device that they had in their hands, whether that was a smartphone, a tablet, or in our case, a gaming machine. And here's the thing, while watching a movie or a show in the background while you're also playing a game on the Steam Deck seems like it would be kind of immersion breaking, I would argue that it could also be kind of immersion enhancing because it can actually increase the ambiance of whatever vibe you're going for with the game that you're playing. So again, today I just wanted to have a little bit of fun and go over some different TV or movie show pairings that I think go great with different games on the Steam Deck that I think would be worth checking out, if not ones that I've indulged myself personally. And I figured I would break this down into three distinct categories today, I guess. The first would be immersive or atmospheric shows or movies that enhance whatever game that you're playing on the Steam Deck. The second would be more cozy or relaxed experiences that improve the ambiance of whatever game you're trying to play that's usually a lower impact title. And then finally, I wanted to lean into really high energy or high octane experiences for action games that you might play on the Steam Deck, and then the appropriate movies or shows that would only complement that further. So let's go ahead and kick this off with a few immersive or atmospheric pairings, and one of the first ones that always comes to mind for me is Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is a great game and it performs a lot better on the Steam Deck than it used to, so if you are playing it in portable mode, I think some natural choices for movies to throw on in the background would be a movie like Blade Runner, which obviously has a lot of similar themes and philosophical questions that are raised by the content in Cyberpunk 2077. But I think another great choice for a movie to watch while you play a game like this on the deck would also be The Fifth Element, which isn't necessarily cyberpunk, but it's certainly futuristic and provides a more lighthearted take on the rampant consumerism, which is a pretty heavy theme for the cyberpunk game anyways. Now if you want to divert away from science fiction into something a little bit more high fantasy, I think that The Witcher 3 would be a great choice for the Steam Deck, and I think there are some obvious pairings there, right? Like of course you could go with The Witcher show, you could go with Game of Thrones, well most seasons of Game of Thrones I guess, or maybe something a little bit more laid back to sort of tone down a bit of the grittiness of Witcher 3 because it does have some pretty dark side quests in there, like Lord of the Rings for example. Actually now that I'm thinking about it, if we step back to sci-fi for a second, Alien Isolation plays pretty well on the Steam Deck, and naturally you could pair that with just about any of the Alien movies, although some of the later ones are not so great, but you probably can't go wrong with Alien or the more recent release Alien Romulus. Not to mention if you did opt to experience the incredibly tense world of Alien Isolation and watch one of these movies in the background, probably be a pretty good way to get hyped up for the new Alien show that's coming out, Alien Earth, which I think comes out in June or July this year. And it's not just that these three selections have obvious analogs you could refer to in terms of movies or television shows necessarily, but it's also that all three of these games, whether it's just the fact that they're large open world adventures, or quieter, more stressful affairs in the case of Alien Isolation, both of those games tend to provide natural places where you can pause and glance up at a TV show or movie that's on screen. So yeah, I think all three of these are amazing games in their own right, but probably only further enhanced by the ambiance provided by these shows and movies that I've already mentioned. Although maybe I should have mentioned at the beginning of this video that it would be best to pair these games with movies or shows that you have already seen, but maybe that goes without saying. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some cozy pairings that I thought would be fun to explore. Stardew Valley is obviously just an amazing cozy game that is the go-to favorite for a lot of different people, and I think that would go particularly well with a show like Parks and Recreation or Community, or on the movie front maybe Groundhog Day, because that too is about life in a small town that, well, it's endless I guess, but nonetheless it has a range of interesting characters, it's funny, it's lighthearted, and I think a natural thing to throw on in the background for an experience like this that itself is more of a relaxed experience. And this next choice admittedly could be considered high fantasy action adventure, and it definitely is, but I also always found this to be more of a cozy experience in its own right, and that would be Fable. And even though it's starting to show its age a little bit, Fable is still a really fun game, and I like its lighthearted humor and sort of whimsical storybook nature, and I think that would pair really well with Heath Ledger's A Knight's Tale, which, for one, that movie just has an incredible soundtrack, but then secondarily, I also like this pairing because both A Knight's Tale and Fable both focus on themes of growth, redemption, and transformation. Or if you wanted to lean more into the humorous elements of Fable, of which there are many, I think another great movie to throw on for this would be Robin Hood Men in Tights, which to me is just a comedy classic. And honestly, I really need to watch that movie again anyways, because it's been forever since I've watched Robin Hood Men in Tights. And then my final selection for a cozy game slash show or movie pairing would have to be Sea of Thieves. Don't get me wrong, Sea of Thieves has plenty of adventure and action on the high seas, but also while you're on those high seas, there are lots of quiet moments of downtime where you can sort of manage your ship's inventory or modify your loadout, go fishing, or just sort of relax and take in the ambiance. And for this game, I think some natural pairings obviously would be any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, also One Piece, the anime, or the live action, the latter of which actually made me want to start watching the anime because I was totally unfamiliar until I saw that show. And finally, if you are an aging millennial like me, I think 1991's Hook with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman will be an amazing movie to watch while you play this game. But now let's move on to some more high energy or high octane affairs, and I don't think it gets much more high energy than Doom, which I think a great movie to watch while you're playing Doom would be like Mad Max Fury Road, or I guess you could watch the Doom movie with The Rock, which was not very great. And actually, now that I think about it, another really great game is Mad Max on the Steam Deck, which is a wonderful game that is super underrated and I think probably a hidden gem at this point. But you could play that and obviously watch any of the Mad Max movies and probably have a great time with it. Next up, while your mileage may vary from a performance standpoint, Spider-Man Miles Morales is a super fun game, and I like it as an expand-alone sort of entry into the Insomniac series of Spider-Man games, but obviously you could watch Into the Spider-Verse with this one, Across the Spider-Verse, you could check out the old animated series from the 90s, which still holds up pretty well today, or the more recently released Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which surprised me because it was way better than I was expecting it to be, and every time I thought that show was going to go one place, it went someplace totally different, and I highly recommend it. And my last choice for a high-energy, frenetic sort of affair that plays great on the Steam Deck will be Hotline Miami, and I think for a lot of people the obvious choice here would be to watch Ryan Gosling in Drive from 2011, although I would not say that's a super high action movie. It definitely has action, but it has more of a slow, meandering, kind of dramatic pacing to it. So what might be a better choice if you want something that's going to kind of match the energy of Hotline Miami, even though I don't really think of them as being the same types of characters, would be any of the John Wick movies, mostly because they have similar soundtracks and you'll find a lot of high-energy music in both Hotline Miami and in the John Wick movies. Not to mention Hotline Miami has this hyper-saturated, vivid color palette, and the John Wick movies are mostly the same. So yeah, that's it for this one. Just wanted to have some fun with a looser style video because second screen gaming, the way I've described it, isn't about distracting you from one thing or the other, but rather having both experiences enrich each other by having similar ambiance and tone. So thanks for coming on this fun little thought experiment with me where, again, I just wanted to explore different movies or shows that I thought would be complementary to the Steam Deck experience and improve the immersion. But hey, what about you? Are there any particular pairings that you found playing the Steam Deck in portable mode that you think work well with the deck, certain games that match up well with certain movies or shows? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. As for what's coming up on the channel, I'm still working through some of the games that you recommended that I check out, so that should be coming in the next couple of weeks. And then also I'd like to lean into some emulation content soon, since, yeah, I've just been really big into retro stuff lately, and it seems to happen every spring. So that's it for this one. As always, thank you so much for your time and hanging out here with me. I really appreciate it. Have an amazing day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.